What's up everyone, it's your girl Branchanae, and today I'm going to be doing a video, but you probably won't see much of my face in this video due to the fact that I think what I'm about to tell you, she will pretty much, it's self-explanatory. I think that she does it well and she speaks it well. She speaks it better than I will have regarding this issue. And I went to an event on the 13th of September, which is this month, and I went to go see Angie Thomas, who came here in Ohio, in Westerville, and she did a wonderful speech due to the issues that is happening across the country in America, which is police brutality and the innocent killings of young men and women. I don't want to say too much because she pretty much, this video, you know, what she'll say will speak for itself when it comes to this issue. But I really hope you enjoy this video, guys. This is a little bit something that I'm doing different with this video, but I hope you really do like it, and I hope you really do like this content. If you do like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit subscribe and let me know down below if this is some type of content that you like from me or want to see more from me. But thank you so much, you guys, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
I'm too young to not have a dad.
Janae. Introduce Angie, the speaker. Angie Thomas, author of The Hate You Give, widely known as the first Black Lives Matter inspired young adult novel, has been a #1 New York Times bestseller for 80 weeks. Described as the best and most important book of the year by Entertainment Weekly, it's already been adapted into a major feature film. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this, coming out in October. And her second book, which I'm excited about, is going to be coming out in February. It's called On the Come Up. So make sure you guys also take a look out for that. Take a look out for that. So now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Angie Thomas.
Very warm welcome. Secondly, thank you for having me when you do not have cold weather. As a Southerner, I am allergic to cold weather. I don't do well with snow. So the last time I was in Ohio, it snowed. It was like you guys had a big blizzard. And I was like, what is this? This is weird. I mean, because the thing is, when we get snow in Mississippi, like, and you're gonna laugh, but like half an inch will shut down the entire city. Because we're like, what is this? White stuff should not be coming from the sky, unless it's danger. But thank you for having me during your warmer weather. My name is Angie Thomas, and I am the author of The Hate You Give, which to my surprise is a #1 New York Times bestseller. But today I'm actually going to talk about 2 young men who inspired me to not only write The Hate You Give, but helped me find my voice and find my activism. And by telling my story, I hope that it inspires your story and helps you find your voice and understand the value of your voice. You can go to the next slide. So, as I said earlier, I am a Southerner. I am from Mississippi. Now, when I tell people I'm from Mississippi, I usually get 2 reactions, one of 2 reactions. It's either, oh, I have family there, or I'm from there, or I drove through there. Or 2, it's, oh. Because the fact is, Mississippi has a reputation. I often say that Mississippi is known for 2 things. Writers and racism. And here I am, a writer writing about racism. So I think I checked off both boxes. But I have to clear up some misconceptions about my state. 1, we do have indoor plumbing. 2, we do wear shoes. In fact, I like to wear Jordans. 3, we're not all backwoods hicks. I say not all because there are plenty of backwoods hicks in Mississippi. But we're not all backwoods hicks. Those are our country cousins that we sometimes don't understand. Okay? 4, I've never been called the N-word. Yeah, I know.
Good.
Not saying it won't happen, but so far, not yet in Mississippi. 5, I've never had to sit on the back of a bus. 6, I've never had to drink from a colors-only fountain. My state has a lot of problems. I will be the first to criticize it. Someone once described Mississippi to me as that parent that you love but you can't get along with, and that feels like the most accurate description I've ever heard. It has a lot of problems, including that flag that I would love to tear down in every second I could, but it's changed a lot. The Mississippi I grew up in was totally different from the one you've probably heard about, but I will say that I grew up hearing the same stories that you probably did. The neighborhood I lived in was once the home of a gentleman by the name of Medgar Evers. How many of you have heard that name? Today it's a museum, and you can see the bullet holes in the wall from bullets that ripped through his body and went into the house. My mom was a little girl when that happened, and she actually heard the gunshots that took Mr. Evers' life. She says that my grandmother was actually supposed to go to that meeting he was holding that evening, and a neighbor called and said, "Don't go. There's a rumor that the night riders are coming through." Night riders was another way of saying KKK. My mom says she remembers my grandparents turning off all the lights in the house, sitting on the floor, and just waiting because they didn't know what may happen. And all of the houses on the street did the same thing. And she says that in the middle of the night, in the quiet of the night, she heard the rumble of a pickup truck. And this voice with this really deep southern accent said, "Where are all the niggers at? We want to have some fun tonight." Their idea of fun and my mom's idea of fun were two different things, of course. My mom says it wasn't even an hour after that she heard those gunshots that took Mr. Evers' life. I grew up hearing stories about stuff like that. And I remember the first time, too, that I learned about a young man by the name of Emmett Lewis Till. How many of you know that name? For those who don't know, Emmett Till was a 14-year-old black boy who visited Mississippi in 1955 from Chicago. He was accused of whistling at a white woman. Fun fact, she recently admitted that that was a lie. But that accusation, that lie, led to 14-year-old Emmett being kidnapped in the middle of the night from his uncle's home and brutally beaten to the point of death. His body was thrown into a river, and when it was found days later, he was unrecognizable. His mom had pictures of her son's brutally beaten face placed in magazines and newspapers around the world because she wanted everyone to know what was happening in Mississippi. Her doing that changed history as we know it. Rosa Parks once said that the reason she did not give up her seat on the bus that day was because she thought of that picture of 14-year-old Emmett and what happened to him. So in a lot of ways, Emmett's death was not in vain. I first learned about Emmett at 6 years old. I was looking through what's called Jet magazine. All the black folks in here know about Jet. Yeah, Jet was like, Jet magazine was Black Twitter before Black Twitter. And I was looking through an issue that was commemorating the anniversary of his death. And I came across a picture of his brutally beaten face that his mom had made public all those years ago. And at 6 years old, I thought it was a prop from a horror film. And I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, what is this?" And she said, "No, baby, who is this?" And she told me that story of Emmett. And at 6 years old, I remember looking at his picture and thinking, wow, he could have been my brother, he could have been my cousin, he could have been one of those little boys in the neighborhood that I got a crush on. Suddenly, his death was extremely personal. Decades after it happened, I found myself mourning for Emmett Till as if he had lost his life the day before. My mom saw me crying and she told me words that have since stayed with me. Know your worth, but also know that not everyone values you the same way I do. And sometimes it's simply because of the color of your skin. Emmett Till had worth. But on that fateful night in Money, Mississippi, his murderers did not see the value of his life. His death was made political, but I'd like to think for Rosa Parks, it was personal. I think that she too mourned for Emmett and used her sorrow, frustration, and maybe even her anger to decide that enough was enough. She made the political personal, and in turn helped change the politics of this country as we know it. Although Emmett stayed with me and I took his murder personally, the truth was his death seemed far-fetched to me. Like I said, the Mississippi I lived in was totally different. I was not worried about the KKK kidnapping me in the middle of the night. Honestly, had they come through my neighborhood, we would have snatched those sheets right off their heads and made ghost costumes out of them. That's just fact. I was more worried about the drug dealers and the gang members and the shootouts. I was more worried about whether or not my family would have food on the table. Stories like Emmett's were the past. The stories I heard that took place in the present scared me far more. Sometimes I witnessed stuff myself. It was seeing the drug dealers terrorizing the block. It was being in the neighborhood park, not long after seeing that picture of Emmett and almost getting caught in the crossfires, two drug dealers had a shootout. It was hearing stories of cops abusing their power sometimes. My cousin, who was a cop, told me similar words once that my mom told me. Know your worth, but also know that sometimes some of my fellow officers will not value you like I do. Navigating all those odds and ends was tough. It became even tougher once I reached college because suddenly I had to be two different people in two very different worlds. We can go to the next slide. I said a mouthful, but you can probably get a good idea of what it was like. But I gotta admit, even though my first day there, my school was 10 minutes away from my neighborhood. In 10 minutes, you went from seeing abandoned homes and the $5 chicken spots. You know, when you get a 10-piece for $5, and you're like, dang, I got change here? To the huge houses with the maids and the chauffeurs and the $40 hipster chicken places where you spend $40 on a 2-piece and you're like, dang, I don't have no change left? Totally different world. But my first day on campus, well, before I got to campus, I didn't really realize how different it was until I got to campus. My first day there, they had a party for the freshmen to welcome us. When you tell me party, I think you're gonna have some Tupac playing, some Beyonce, I mean something, like, you know. Y'all already know, it was not. I get there, they got Sweet Home Alabama playing. You cannot Billy rock to Sweet Home Alabama. You cannot, okay? You can try, but it is not a good look. So I quickly realized this was an entirely different world. So I did what's called code switching. What is code switching? I'm doing a little bit of code switching now. It's when you're extremely careful of how you present yourself. You're extremely careful of every single word that comes out of your mouth. I never wanted anyone to listen to me and assume I was the ignorant black girl. I was the ghetto black girl. I was the angry black girl. Or I was only there because of affirmative action. I put myself in a box and tried to make myself as acceptable as possible. So basically, to sum it up, I would leave my house playing Tupac, and by the time I got to my school, I was listening to the Jonas Brothers, Don't Judge Me. And really don't judge me because I still like them, and I heard a rumor that they are having a reunion tour, and Ethan Thomas will be front row. But I can't lie, it was hard being this other person. I had several experiences that really challenged me. Now, how many of you have read the book? All right. So, for those of you who have read the book, there is a character by the name of Haley. For those who haven't read the book, you can get a good idea of Haley just by that church that we read. The thing is, Haley is based on a real person. But the fun fact is, real life Haley did not realize she was real life Haley. Yeah. Real life Haley read the book and called me and was like, "Oh my God, was someone like that?" And I think I was silent for like 5 minutes. I was just like, and I was like, yeah. "Oh my God, who?" I said, "Look in a mirror." So we have not spoken since. It's okay. But I had several experiences with this real life Haley that really challenged me as I was being this other person. One time, we were at a Christmas party that my professor held in his house. And he had a huge tree with a big pile of gag gifts underneath. I'm talking like whoopee cushions, fart machines, all this stuff. He said that his wife wouldn't have let him get otherwise, so he just wanted an excuse to buy. He was putting it off on us. And so when it was time for me to pick a gift, because I'm that person, I went for one of the biggest ones under the tree. And I opened the gift, and it's an old prescription drug book and a toy water gun. Weird, I know. But real life Haley goes, "Oh my God, the black girl from the ghetto got the drug book and the gun, how funny." Some of my classmates laughed with her. I made myself laugh because I thought I was supposed to. But inside, I was pissed. But I was more angry at myself for not saying something. I will say though, I left there, I said, forget the Jonas Brothers that day. I left Tupac hot. Like, I think I scarred some poor child for life. His mom was walking her little child down the block in his stroller. And he looks like he's 2 years old, and I got the windows down, and Tupac is dropping F-bombs like he's breathing. And this kid looks all the way around at me, and the mom gives me this dirty look like, "You just ruined my child." And I was like, "F you too, F you too." So I was angry. And although it was a grainy cell phone video, it showed Oscar being taken off the transit train, placed onto his stomach flat on the ground. His arms were behind his back. The officer had his knee in Oscar's back, so Oscar was unable to move. But for some odd reason, the officer took out his gun and shot Oscar in the back. He was not charged in the case. It led to a lot of conversations. It led to a lot of unrest in Oakland, and it led to a lot of conversations in Mississippi. In my neighborhood, Oscar was one of us. He was an ex-con and he was trying to turn his life around, and I knew guys just like him. And it had nothing to do with those last moments of his life. At my school, my classmates were like, well, maybe he deserved it. He was an ex-con. Why are people so upset? He was a thug. He was probably going to end up dead anyway. He should have just done what they told him to do. I was angry. I was hurt. I was frustrated. I took it personal. Once again, like Emmett Till, here was this young man who could have been my brother or my cousin, and here were my classmates saying that he deserved to die. They couldn't quite wrap their heads around the idea that someone would mourn him. They couldn't seem to understand that it was truly mourning that pushed the people in Oakland to the point that they were willing to destroy their own communities in Oscar's name. I wasn't sure how to make them understand. I wasn't even sure how to deal with my own emotions about the matter because I frankly wanted to burn down the whole school campus. The only thing I knew how to do was write. So I wrote a short story about a boy named Khalil who was a lot like Oscar and a girl named Star who lived in two different worlds like I did. I decided to make the political personal because for me, it felt personal. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Now, honestly, I gotta be real with y'all for a second. As a black woman in America, I often feel that my very existence is political. If I'm to wear my hair a certain way in corporate America, it becomes an issue of office politics. If I speak up and say that my life and lives likely matter, I'm suddenly making a political statement. Even growing up, the quality of education that was available in neighborhoods like mine was a political issue. So yes, for me, the political is often personal. And I think for many of us these days, the politics feel more personal by the minute. If we dare speak out on issues, if we dare speak up for ourselves, against our oppression and our oppressors, some people will dare to call us snowflakes. But let me remind you something. An avalanche is essentially a bunch of snowflakes banding together. There's power in a snowflake and there's power in making the political personal. And while I don't condone rioting, I think it proves my point. Because for somebody to be so angry that they would destroy their own community, they must have taken something personally. Ask the folks in Ferguson why some of them were so angry to riot instead of protest. They took Mike Brown's death personally. Take a time machine back to 1992 and ask those folks in the Los Angeles riots why they were angry enough to cause millions of dollars in damages. They took Rodney King's beating personally. So yes, there is power in that. The key, though, is figuring out how to use that power to cause effective change, much like Rosa Parks did that day. But before we even get to that, we have to take the political personally. Because the thing is, it's one thing to look at Tamir Rice and say we feel sorry for his family. But it's another to look at Tamir Rice and mourn for him as if he was family. I do. And I need all of you to do the same, whether Tamir looks like you or not. Empathy is our key in both our fight for equality and equity. And empathy is far more powerful than sympathy. Once we reach that point of empathy, though, how do we take our anger, our sorrow, and frustration and use that effectively? Please, the next slide. Tell my mom I'm being polite. I got a call from like, you asked him to do the slide, you better be polite about it. She was not being polite telling me that. Don't tell her I said that. For all the criticism that hip-hop receives, one of the greatest things it did was give urban America a voice and empowered us to believe that our voices even matter. There are so many things that happen in communities like mine that mainstream America wouldn't know about if it wasn't for hip-hop. You may not have liked how NWA said it, but we wouldn't know half of what happens in Compton if it wasn't first for them, and we wouldn't know what's still happening if it wasn't for Kendrick Lamar. But you do not have to be a rapper to find your voice or for your voice to matter. Let me repeat that because I do not want to be responsible for some garbage music. You do not have to be a rapper for your voice to matter or for you to find your voice. If you're good at it though, I will take checks in my P.O. box. Like I said earlier, I wrote a short story about a boy named Khalil who was a lot like Oscar Grant and a girl named Star who lived in two worlds like I did. A professor encouraged me to turn it into a novel. I didn't at first because it was honestly emotionally taxing. And I foolishly believed that after Oscar Grant, we wouldn't see this again. But then Trayvon Martin happened. Michael Brown happened. Sandra Bland happened. Tamir Rice happened. And I'm hearing politicians say the same things that my classmates said. I was angry, I was hurt, I was frustrated. And I couldn't understand how people could write their deaths off when I was taking it so personally. I decided to use my art as my activism. As a writer, I personally believe that books are one of the best ways to create empathy and make people aware of problems in our society. If you spend 300 or so pages in the shoes of a character, or in the case of The Hate You Give, 400 or something pages, I have to point that out because I did this talk at a school once and this little boy came up to me afterwards. He was like, no, it's 400. I was like, are you mad? I know. He was like, I just want you to know. I told him, thank you. And I hope he does not become a mansplainer. He was innocent. He meant it with all good intentions. But if you spend out that many pages with a character in their shoes, I hope that by the end you can help but feel some empathy and walk away with some understanding. That's, for me, why The Hate You Give was born. But what about you? What can you do? What do you do? You may feel helpless, powerless, but I'm here to tell you that you are some of the most powerful people in the world. Go to the next one, please. Now, I want to talk to the teenagers for a second. How many teens are in here? Raise your hand or woo, whatever you All right. Now, this applies to the not-so-teenagers as well, but I really want to talk to you guys because I write for you first and foremost. I'm not going to reveal my age. As we say in the South, that's none of your business. But I wasn't a teenager that long ago. It's short enough that I still remember how hard it was, but long enough that if I could, I would give my younger self some words of wisdom and they would probably change the entire trajectory of my life. For one, I say invest in Apple, you know. One of the things that frustrated me the most as a teenager was that it never seemed like anyone cared about what I had to say. How many of you teens feel like that? It seems like the adults in your life write you off, they don't listen to you, they say, oh, you're being too this, you're being too that. They don't value your opinions at all. Y'all can write, even if you sit next to your mama, raise your hand. I get it, and I can admit, adults, can we admit for a second that we tend to overlook what they say and downplay it? We do. I know y'all are like, I don't know, but yeah, you do. You do. I catch it too because I write for teenagers. I go to conferences and festivals where there are adult authors there, and when I tell them I write young adult literature, they're like, why would you want to write that? And I'm like, why would you want to write for boring adults? I mean, so I get it. I'm looked down upon for writing for you. But you have value. Your voices, your opinions are some of the most valuable in the world. Do you know how many industries thrive and survive based on what you guys do or do not like? Mine included. Do you know how much marketers pay to find out what appeals to you? They have these things called teenage spies. It is not a creative name, but we will overlook that. Because these are essentially teenagers that spy on their friends and tell these marketers what their friends are into right now. There is a kid in the United States making $50,000 a year telling these marketers secretly that his friends are into Snapchat or whatever it is right now. Whatever the thing is, he's snitching and making bank. If you are that kid, try not to look too suspicious right now. But the thing is, you guys drive trends. You affect language with the slang you create. Ask the adults in here how many of them try to figure out what the heck some of y'all are saying sometimes. You feed ideas into the fashion industry just by being your authentic selves. So why not use that same power and cause changing your community? And then change the world, because I'm a firm believer that once you change the world around you, you will find yourself changing the world. Who lives in those two different worlds, the mostly black poor neighborhood where she and her family reside, and the mostly white upper class private school that she attends. And her life is turned upside down when she is the sole witness of her childhood best friend Khalil being killed by a cop. Khalil was unarmed. And what Star does or does not say can not only change her community, it could end her life. I have to always point this out because when people read about this book, if they haven't read the book, they jump to a conclusion, and it's that the book is anti-police. It is anti-police brutality. There is a huge difference. As someone who has law enforcement in my family, it was important that that difference was clear. My cousin was a cop. He was known throughout Jackson, Mississippi, because he was known for being a no-nonsense cop. If the drug dealers were selling on a block close to an old person's house, he'd pull them aside and say, especially if it was a kid, one, why are you out here doing this? Why aren't you in school doing something positive? Two, does your mama know you out here? Three, he'd find out what the root problem was and work with that kid to better their lives. We need more like him. Yeah. So it was important for me to have the character of Uncle Carlos in the book in homage of him. It's been pretty successful so far. Some words, levels of grammar are in the house. Okay. Y'all know y'all like to come at me. But let me point out something. The U is on purpose. I know how to spell the word you. Not to brag, but I have a 3.98 GPA. I'm good on spelling you. I have to laugh because the last time I did this talk, and I said that I actually said like 3.9, and my mom was in the audience. She said, no, 3.98. So I corrected that. Tell her that as well. The U is on purpose. If you look at it, it spells out thug. Mm-hmm. Because I swear, there is always one person that does it. Every time. I love you for that. Every time. Never fails. Always. There's always. It spells out thug. That comes from Tupac Amaru Shakur. I don't have liquor, but I'm going to pretend to pour out a little liquor for my talk today. Because today marks 22 years since Tupac lost his life. But Tupac had this tattoo across his abdomen that said, Thug Life. I was about 8 years old, and I saw him on the news coming out of the courtroom, showing that thug life tattoo, spitting at cameras, and just being wild pop, and I was in love because I was like, yes, I don't even know what thug life is. What I didn't know was thug life was an acronym for the hate you give little infants F's everybody. He explained that as meaning that what society feeds into youth has a way of affecting us all. He said this in '92 in reference to the Los Angeles riots. A lot of people associate that with Rodney King, but it was also in response to the shooting death of a 15-year-old girl named Latasha Harlins. Latasha was in a store and she was going to buy a bottle of juice, but the store owner accused her of stealing the bottle of juice. They got into an argument. Latasha slapped her money onto the counter, turned and walked away. As she was walking away, video shows the store owner shooting her in the head. She only got probation. The people of Los Angeles were so angry about Rodney King and about Latasha that they rioted. I'm talking millions of dollars in damages. Tupac said the hate that was given to that little infant Latasha affected the entire city of Los Angeles. The hate that was given to Trayvon Martin affected the entire city of Sanford, Florida. The hate that was given to Michael Brown affected the entire city of Ferguson, Missouri. And the hate that was given to that very little infant Tamir Rice affected the entire city of Cleveland. If Pac was here, he'd say that's thug life. And in my book, the hate that's given to Star and to Khalil affects their entire community. I've had so many people tell me that this book has inspired me to speak up, speak out, and get involved. I've had children of white supremacists write to me and say, she tripped me out, I can't lie, because she said at first, now I see black people as humans, and I was like, oh. Because I was like, what do you see us as first? But I'm glad she got there, and I hope she goes even further. But she also said she gets why we say Black Lives Matter now, and that they do indeed matter. Somehow, this book that I wrote from a personal place has made something that is often seen as political, personal for so many other people. But I'm not even here today to tell you you have to write a book or even become a rapper, like I said, to use art as activism. You must define your activism. But most importantly, you must be active. In our current political climate, as we see racism, bigotry, and injustice rear their ugly heads even higher, we need you more than ever. We need you to speak up, we need you to speak out, we need you to use your privilege if you have it to the benefit of others. We need you involved. But most importantly, we need you to care. Because at the end of the day, that is simply how you make the political personal. You care. But I will warn you right now, it will not be easy. We often celebrate Dr. King, but remember this, although he is upheld now, when he was alive, he was considered an enemy of the state. He was called a terrorist, he was called a troublemaker, like so many of our current social justice leaders. If he was alive and doing that work now, he would probably get trolled like crazy on Twitter, and he would probably be on that black extremist list that the FBI supposedly has. He spent many nights in jail. He traveled a long, hard road. We tend to romanticize the civil rights movement now, but there was nothing easy about that work, so I have to warn you, this will not be easy. But I truly believe it will be worth it. Because hopefully, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, a young man or a young woman won't have to get up here and explain why Black Lives Matter. remembered something I was supposed to do. Ask them to pass their sheets in. I'm sorry. I was doing homework with your questions. But my encouragement to you is to find your voice, find your activism, get involved, create the change you want to see. Once again, change the world around you, and I assure you, my friends, that you will change the world. Be that light in the darkness. Thank you. I'm very thankful to every single educator who fights for that book. So thank you, educators. All right. If there's a question you want teens to consider after reading, is that one question or one author? Okay, one question you want teens to consider after reading your book or seeing the movie, what would it be? I would ask them to consider this and ask themselves this, and I actually ask every single person to ask themselves this. Do I know what it's like to be someone who isn't like me in my community? Mm-hmm. Do I know what it's like to be someone who doesn't share either my race, my religion, or my sexual orientation in my neighborhood, in my school, in my city? If they cannot answer that question, my charge to them is to find out, because then they will become aware of issues that are happening right around them that they have the power to change. So that would be the question. All right, here we go. Can you tell us about your new book? Yes. Yes. Somewhere in New York City, my editor is waiting on it right now. It's due on Saturday. No, it's all good. She can wait. Don't tell her I said that either. But my new book comes out February 5th, and it is called On the Come Up. And it is not a sequel or a spinoff to The Hate U Give. I cannot see myself writing a sequel to The Hate U Give, at least not from Star's perspective, because the fact is, I put that girl through hell in that book. I need to give her a break. So I put another 16-year-old girl through hell in his book. That sounds awful. But it's about a 16-year-old girl named Brianna who wants to be a rapper. Her life has recently been turned upside down because her mom has unexpectedly lost her job. Often at school, Brianna is labeled a hoodlum, a hood rat, an aggressive black girl. An incident causes her to write a song that goes viral for all the wrong reasons. And suddenly she finds herself at the center of a controversy that is too big for her to control. But her family situation is getting worse, and she finds herself desperate to make it, even if it means becoming the very thing she's been made out to be. On the Come Up is my way of continuing the conversation that I started in The Hate U Give. In The Hate U Give, I told young people period, that you have a voice, use it. But I would be doing teenagers especially a disservice if I didn't address the fact that so often society criticizes the way they speak and how they speak. So often we police what they say if it doesn't make us comfortable. And one of the ways I've seen that happen is through the genre that always spoke to me, and that's hip hop. Rappers were criticized for telling the stories that I saw myself in. So this book is my way of discussing that, and it's my ode to hip hop. So I'm excited about it. I've had to write a lot of raps for it. So please get this book when it comes out in February.
I already pre-ordered it.
Okay, I heard you have a BFA in creative writing. Do you have any tips for a freshman English major? Also, what's your favorite Oreo flavor? Okay, I'm gonna go to the second part first. How many of you either saw the movie Love, Simon or read the book Simon vs. That book, and the movie is based on the book by a young woman named Becky Albertalli. Becky is an amazing author. She's one of my best friends, but she has horrible taste in Oreos. She likes the original. I'm team golden Oreo. for a freshman English major, this is gonna sound weird, but my biggest tip to you is to drown out the noise. Because you're gonna have a lot of people when you tell them you have an English degree, say, they don't even say that, they're like what can you do with that? There's a lot you can do with that. There's a whole lot you can do with that. And I'm a firm believer that if you're going to pursue and higher education, let it be something that you at least have some sort of passion for. I mean, don't waste all that money doing something you hate. I mean, Sally Mae may have changed her name, but she's gonna hit you up regardless. But since that's the case too, I would also say have some ideas for what you want to do at some point. Have some sort of backup plan if you can. But for real, drown out the noise. Drown out the noise. There's a lot you can do with an English degree. And if it's what you're truly passionate about, go for it. And honestly, we always need more English teachers. We always need more English teachers. So, shout out to all the English majors. All right. What of your own life is visible in the book? Look at you getting in my business. Star's journey in the two different worlds is definitely based on mine. Her neighborhood is loosely based on the neighborhood that I grew up in. Even some of the restaurants are based on actual restaurants. There's a restaurant if y'all are ever in Jackson, go to Bully's Soul Food. It's the restaurant that's the inspiration for the one in the book. And they have my picture on the wall because of that, but they won't give me free food anyway. But there's a lot of that. And Star's family looks different from mine, but my family was my foundation a lot like hers. Plus, we also share the love of sneakers and the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So those are things I took from my own life and put into hers. Let's see, here we go. How do you feel about Trump? That's the second part. Which Black Lives Matter incident did you take personally? Honestly, I take all of them a bit personally, more than others. There's some more than others though, like Sandra Bland I really took personally because we're around the same age. And there's a young man named Ezel Ford, a disabled young man who lost his life in Los Angeles, and it was after he died that I found out he was my cousin. And so that was one I took extremely personally. I didn't have to meet him, but to know that this had come and affected my family really got me. So I definitely take some more personally than others. As far as that first question,
Don't hold back.
I will not go back, no. I have a problem with leaders who do not recognize the fact that they are leaders for everyone and not just people who look like them or think like them. I have a really big problem with that. And if nothing else, though, I think that right now we are starting to realize that racism is an illness in this country that has not gone away. I knew it before y'all were starting to realize it, you know. So if nothing else, we're getting that. But yeah, I have an issue with that. I'm like, I hope the Secret Service is in. I mean, every time I go out of the country now, when I try to get back in, I have to go talk to somebody at first. I'm like, I can't get back in. I just said too much overseas about Trump. My big issue with him is I need him to realize he's the leader of more than just people who look like him and think like him. And I need him to get off of Twitter. I am super aware of the fact that the teenagers I write for today could one day be politicians with Twitter accounts, and I take that extremely seriously. So that's all I got to say about that. All right. How did you feel when your book was banned from schools and libraries? I was pissed. I was hurt though. I was more hurt than anything because I've been told by a very reliable source that the head of this school district in Texas who banned the book, his issue apparently was the language, the number of F-bombs. For one, that's a cop-out. I'm not gonna lie, that's a cop-out. But two, I sent word back to him, and it was this. Sir, there are 89 instances of the F word in the hate you give. I checked it on my Kindle. But last year alone, over 800 people lost their lives at the hands of police brutality. That number is far more scary. So I genuinely wish that more people were as upset about police brutality as they are about books about police brutality. And then too, there are the parents who say, I'm going to be honest, there are the white parents who say, well, I'm not sure my child is ready to be exposed to this. My 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old. I'm going to leave that to you, but I always want to point this out. There are black parents of 12-year-olds who have to tell them how to interact with police. If your child can read about it from the safety of a book, that is a privilege. But I need them to be just as aware of what's happening to kids beyond them as they are about what's happening to themselves. There's a woman by the name of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop. Yeah. And she said that books are either mirrors, windows, or sliding glass doors. And I'd like to think that every single one is just as important. Kids need mirrors to see themselves in and process things they're going through, but I need white kids to look at the hate you give as a window and sliding glass door so they can become aware of what's happening to people who aren't like them. So, do we have any more? That concludes our question and answer session. Again, I have to thank you all so much. I especially thank you because I was told about an incident that happened last year involving 2 officers here, and I am so sorry for your loss. But I also appreciate you coming and giving me an open mind to say what I needed to say, because like I said in my speech, I am not anti-police at all. I'm against police brutality, and I would hope that more of our officers would be against it as well.
I'll go for my second book.
Only if you all agree to buy the second book. And I apologize now because you may not be able to keep up with what I'm about to do. In the book, Brianna does what's called battle rap. For those, did y'all see 8 Mile with Eminem?
Yeah.
Eminem would do battle raps. Battle raps are basically where 2 rappers go at each other and they freestyle off the top of their heads. It takes skill. It's hard. That's why I just wrote it and don't do it. So here is a little tidbit from Brianna's first battle rap in On the Come Up. No fallacies, I spit melodies, causing fatalities and do it casually damaging rappers without bandaging or managing my own label, my own salary, and actually, factually, there's no MC that's as bad as me. Thank you.
Hey you guys, once again, I really hope you enjoy this video. I know that it's long, but I wanted it to be long due to the fact that this is a very important issue that we're having in America today. And on top of that, the book is also amazing. But I also wanted to present this video to you. It may be long, but it's worth it because there's some people out there that are not aware of what's happening, you know, across the country as far as police brutality towards black men and women. And then also you have the issue of the killing of innocent black men and women. So I think this video was very important. I don't care if it's long or not, or if you have a problem if it's long. I think this video is important. And then you also get to see Angie Thomas, and she's like a real person. She keeps it real with you as regarding this issue. She definitely was saying that she is not anti-police, she is anti-police brutality, you guys. So I just want to clear that up for her as well, because a lot of people, there's a lot of giving her a lot of backlash when it comes to that. And the book is not about attacking police. She's not anti-police, she's anti-police brutality. But you guys, I hope that you really enjoyed this video. It is long. I know you probably didn't watch the whole thing, but if you did, thank you so much. And I also wanted to do this video because I have a black daughter and a black son, and I'm eventually, you know, when the time comes, I'm gonna have to tell them how to act and stuff like that when it comes to police, because I never know what's gonna happen. So I have to prepare them for that, and I hate that I have to do that. And you know, as a mother, you think like that, and I really wanted to get this video out. I know that it's long, but I think it's worth it. If you watch the whole thing, kudos to you. It is like hour pretty much long, but I think it's worth it. And as you can see, here's my son playing with my hair. But once again, if you enjoyed this video, or at least some of it that you have seen, thank you so much. But also give me a thumbs up. Also, let me know down in the comments what you thought about this video. What are your thoughts about what's happening in America today? You know, even if you're not from this country, what do you think? Like, what are your thoughts? And also, you know, anything pretty much. If you have read this book, also let me know your opinions about it, your opinions about the author. But thank you so much, you guys, and I will see what happens and what comments you may give me. But thank you so much, you guys. See ya.